Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we are taking a look at a brand new one coming out of Bestech Knives. And this one here is new and very different and pretty darn interesting. And what we're talking about here is none other than the Bestech Tardis. Now, before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some overall specs on this knife right here. We have an overall length coming in at 7.6 inches, with a blade length coming in at 3.15 inches, and a blade thickness of 125 thousandths. Blade material on this guy is good old, well, old D2 with a cleaver style blade, a flat grind, a handle length coming in at 4.58 inches, and a handle thickness at 488 thousandths. Handle material on this guy is G10 with a liner lock locking mechanism and a user of a right hand only tip-up carry. Weight coming in at 4.10 ounces, and designed by Ostap Hell, which is I definitely see kind of the Ostap in this. He's, you know, he has his own design language, but then he also comes out with things like this that are just different and unique. And even though they may not fit exactly into design language that you relate directly to Ostap Hell, you're not surprised when you hear that name with something like this for some reason. He's just he can really surprise you with some. And this is a surprising design in a good way for me. Price is coming in at $63. And, you know, 63 bucks is okay. I wouldn't call it a great deal, but, you know, D2 is just kind of D2 at this point. I would love to see more 14C28N and 154CM being used. I feel like Bestech still uses a lot of D2. You know, it's one thing if you're charging 40 to 45 bucks for D2, you get up into the mid to high 60s, which is obviously technically maybe in the lower 60s, but still 63 bucks. I would like to have seen 14C28N, but that's just me. Let's take a look at some size comparisons and see what we got here. And it's just kind of funny how tall the end of that blade is. This Tardis is very much in between a Kaiser Drop Bear and a Kaiser Escort. Very much in between there. Really almost exactly the same length as the Escort and just slightly longer than the Drop Bear. But rather similar handles in the Escort. A little more roundness there, but very similar in terms of handle length and kind of shape, I guess. And then we also have here, let's pull out the Civivi Conspirator. And you know what? Let's do this here. The CJRB Echo. So there you go. I think that should be I think those size comparisons should suffice for everybody and do what they needed to do. So let's get talking about this knife. This is a pretty neat design. I wasn't too sure about it. They sent me a picture, said, hey, do you want to check it out? And I thought, I don't know. And then I thought, oh, it's an Ostap Hell design. I do really like a good Ostap Hell design, so I wanted to check it out on that basis alone. And, you know, Bestech does a really good job with their budget series. So always like feeling that that quality, fit, and finish for, you know, for a budget knife. It's pretty darn good. The blade on this guy, one of the coolest cleavers I've ever seen. I'm not exactly a cleaver lover. There's a couple that I like obviously the Sheepdog series from Kaiser is great. That's really when it comes to cleavers, that's really the only one that always just comes right to my mind and is like, oh yeah, I love it. I feel like this has potential to get there someday. This is really cool. I just really like the functionality in this blade. You have a behind the edge reading of 19 thousandths, so it gets pretty darn thin down there, makes some very nice sliciness with that rather tall flat grind. I wouldn't call it super tall. You got quite a fuller going on up here, which the fuller is really just there for looks. You can't really, it's not really flickable at all. Thumb stud's flickable, so that's nice. But yeah, the fuller is just purely there for aesthetics. Some very nice jimping back here that works very well. And really the all-star of this blade, what really makes this blade just very functional is this area right here. And not just the tip. I'm also talking about this, but let's talk about the tip for a second. It's such a nice, it's a perfectly square tip to where this is an all-star for draw cuts. Like if you had to open up thicker bags, like if you had to cut into a bag of concrete or anything with a thicker material bag, this would be great for that because it's a rather powerful blade with a sharp edge and a nice good point there coming down, which is just really, really good for those draw cuts or any type of real forceful cuts where you really need that tip to power through something. It's going to work very well. And then this flat edge up here, how do I get that down here? It's also very good for some scraping. Now, it's not like, it's really hard to get this in focus for some reason there. As you can see, it's slightly rounded a little here, but I think this could still do some okay scraping work for you. It's not going to be like scraping something off with a razor blade, but I think that could come in handy if you ever really had to get down and just do some really good scraping like that. I like the possibility there for that. And again, for a budget knife, you should be able to use this, abuse it, and not feel too bad if you scratch the top of the blade up and the coating comes off. This is a knife that's made to be used, and a very functional blade to use in a lot of different ways. The only thing on this blade that I don't like, people are probably already knowing what I'm going to say, but the color of this thumb stud, and again, this is a very aesthetic thing. It's very much a Wayne thing, but it really annoys me that it's a different shade of green than the handle. It just really bugs me all the time. Like, I wouldn't have minded if this was like stainless steel or something anodized to this shade of green. That's one thing, but it's a nice OD green and black mixture, and then this kind of like poppy or brighter green really just kind of doesn't do much for me. Not a fan of that. I would have much rather just had that thumb stud either been satin, or probably even ideally I would much rather it have been black, like the grind and the hardware. That would have looked really nice. The off green compared to the OD is just kind of, it doesn't sit well with me. It's not a deal breaker, but I really don't like that. Going into the handle, it complements the blade so well. I mean, this is a very, very angular, straight edge design, very clean, looks good, and the handle feels pretty good. It's obviously very neutral feeling, but there is some milling and angling, and I wouldn't maybe not call it chamfering, but certain parts of the handle that have been touched up and angled out to where it feels pretty solid in hand. It works. It works. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's good enough to where I do like it. Let's see here. The pocket clip. This is another part that I feel like I don't love it. I wish the pocket clip wasn't quite as long. I would have rather seen it be a little shorter, maybe a little wider, and then definitely get rid of these non-recessed screws here. That's not cool. For $63 and just at the stage of kind of like where budget knives are right now, like those should be recessed screws. I think it'll still work for some pants. If you have thicker hems, you're probably going to get kind of caught up there. This kind of reminds me of like the crap you would see coming out of ZT, to where the screws just, they take up too much space. So I would like to see the screws recessed there. I don't mind the design of the pocket clip. I think that's fine. I wish it would have been just a little wider, maybe to just fill this entire line here. I don't know. Just not quite working fully for me. I will say it carries okay. It just depends on how thin your pockets are, your pocket hems. If you can get it all the way down, then you're good. If you're not, you're probably gonna have a problem with it. But yeah, kind of a questionable area for me. But again, not necessarily a deal breaker because I can still make it work. I just feel like that area could be touched up and improved upon just a little. Now the action here, very, very, very good action. It's a bigger, heavier blade, so that always is going to work well. It's going to work in favor of good action as long as the detent is on point, and the detent is very much on point here. You break that detent, and that blade is coming out with a good amount of force, and it really does. It feels assisted, and I think what makes it feel assisted is the weight. When you flick this out, if you watch, the knife almost like kicks a little. It's because there's so much steel up here. You kind of feel it in the handle, and I like that. I really do. I think that's a pretty enjoyable action. Middle finger flicking, it's good. The thumb flick is good. A pretty good knife from an action standpoint. And overall, I think it's a pretty solid knife. I would definitely like to see some little tweaks made to the pocket clip and get rid of that weird green thumb stud. But overall, it's a very well executed design from Ostap. And a pretty well executed build from Bestech. Like I said, it could use those little changes there, but overall, I am pretty happy with it. I do think it's a pretty cool knife, and I would really definitely, if I could pick one over again, I would definitely go with the all black version, to where the handle's black, hardware's black, thumb stud's black. The only thing that's not black is kind of the satin flats here. I thought that looked really, really sweet. But there's a handful of color options, at least 5, 6, maybe even 7 color options. There's a good amount of color options, so there could be a color option you would find that would fit your fancy. But overall, I do think this is a pretty enjoyable knife, a rather solid offering from Bestech, and one that I'm interested to see just how well it does in the market. So if you've picked one of these up, if you're thinking about picking one up, let me know what you think. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. And that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.